जिसमें 2161 वोट जिनकी वैल्यू है 5,77,777 और सिन्हा जी को मिले हैं 1,058 वोट जिनकी वैल्यू है 2,61,062।
एक वन so Droupadi Murmu has crossed 50% mark, no, sir?
You can calculate yourself. I'll come back to you after this.
Story breaking this evening, Droupadi Murmu from Mayurbhanj, now India's 15th president, crossing the 50% mark very comfortably, including 104 MLAs cross-voting in favor of the BJP candidate. So far, from the rounds of voting, we know 17 MPs cross-voted. 5 of those votes got invalidated, but 17 MPs in total and 104 MLAs belonging to opposition parties have cross-voted in favor of President Droupadi Murmu. Now, Yashwant Sinha has conceded defeat. The opposition candidate tweeting moments before now, I join fellow citizens in congratulating Srimati Droupadi Murmu on her victory in the presidential election of 2022. India hopes that as the 15th president of the Republic, she functions as the custodian of the Constitution without fear or favour. That's opposition candidate Yashwant Sinha congratulating candidate Droupadi Murmu. All the details coming up on the presidential elections. We're also tracking Sonia Gandhi being questioned by the Enforcement Directorate today. That and more is our top focus on the Newstrack tonight.
Welcome Rashtrapati Droupadi Murmu. Nation's first tribal president is here. After stormy campaign, Murmu wins. India, hail your first Adivasi president. Celebrations erupt for 15th Rashtrapati. History made and barriers broken.
Also on the Newstrack tonight, we'll have senior BJP leader Ravi Shankar Prasad and senior Congress leader Sachin Pilot talking about the Enforcement Directorate's summoning and questioning of Congress President Sonia Gandhi. That's coming up in a while. Here are the headlines I'm tracking tonight. Opposition split wide open over the election of the Vice President. TMC to abstain from voting. Mamta's party furious over not being consulted over Margaret Alva's nomination. Sonia Gandhi's ED grilling in the National Herald case concludes for the day. Sonia grilled for over 3 hours by the ED, summoned again on the 25th of July. Congress protest turns violent in Bengaluru, Hyderabad and Chandigarh. Vehicles torched, 3 trains stopped in the capital. War of words over Sonia Gandhi's grilling by the ED. Congress says probe agency didn't have anything to ask the Congress president, so she was let off early. ED counters claims all key issues were covered. Mamata Banerjee's mega roar for the 2024 polls on TMC's Martyr Day. Says people's mandate will dislodge the BJP. Hits out of the centre, says don't scare us by using the ED.
सकता है कि हमको भी झुकता नहीं है. हमको ईडी से मत डराओ, हमको सीबीआई से मत डराओ, हमको रुपया बंद करने से मत डराओ. ऐसा बात मत करो.
The latest information that we're receiving at this moment is, according to the counting that's been done so far, Droupadi Murmu has received 69% of the total votes that have been counted till the third round. She's also got 53% of the total votes available in the electoral college. What that essentially means is that candidate Murmu will be India's 15th president. It's all but certain. She has crossed the 50% mark and is now comfortably ensconced in pole position to be India's 15th president. We're also being told that in states like Madhya Pradesh and Assam, there's been massive cross-voting. A total of 104 MLAs have cross-voted so far, according to information put out from senior government sources. We're also being told that 17 MPs have cross-voted. 5 of those votes got invalidated for various reasons, but 17 MPs in total have cross-voted in favor of the BJP's candidate Droupadi Murmu. Paulami Saha joins us at candidate Murmu's Delhi residence. Paulami, we're being told that the Prime Minister will be coming to meet Droupadi Murmu and congratulating her. We're also seeing a big BJP song and dance. It doesn't usually happen like this from my past memory, but they're really putting up a big song and dance to send home the message that a tribal woman from the east will now be ensconced in Rashtrapati Bhavan.
That's right. This is a momentous occasion, Rahul, and the BJP wants to mark this occasion. They were being extremely careful about it and somber until, of course, that third round counting results, in fact, came in, which basically said that she has already secured 53% of the votes as far as the electoral college is concerned. So she's crossed that mark. And hence, these celebrations that you can see that are broken out inside Droupadi Murmu's temporary residence in Delhi. She is over here, and shortly Prime Minister Modi is also expected to come over here. आप कहाँ से हो? आप ओडिशा से हो. आप यहाँ पर आए हो. कितना बड़ा ये मौका है कि द्रौपदी मुर्मू जो ओडिशा से आती हैं, वो अब राष्ट्रपति बनने वाली हैं.
बहुत बढ़िया लग रहा है और हम ओडिशा से हैं, होम डिस्ट्रिक्ट से है. राष्ट्रपति दीदी द्रौपदी दीदी को होम डिस्ट्रिक्ट है. हम आसपास से रहते हैं, मयूरभंज से. ओडिशा से हम दिल्ली में रहते हैं और आज इतना खुश लग रही है, इतना खुश लग रही है जैसे कि ठिकाना ही नहीं है. और हम लेडीज को इतना मान मिलेंगे, ये हमारे रिक्वेस्ट है. बहुत मान मिलेंगे और फर्स्ट टाइम राष्ट्रपति हो रहे हैं तो बहुत खुश.
और एक महिला, आदिवासी महिला जो आज राष्ट्रपति बनने वाली है, एक तरह से इतिहास रचा जा रहा है.
और जोहार के जोतो को गए इंटरेस्ट को ना आले सांताल समाज रे माने नितो उन्नति लगी और नितो आयो होड़े दाड़े.
Follow me for a moment. I want to go across to Suryagni Roy. He's at the residence in Mayurbhanj in Orissa of Droupadi Murmu. Her brother now joins us live on this broadcast for the first time, speaking to the media after it's now clear that Droupadi Murmu will be India's next president. Suryagni, take it away.
Well, Rahul, I'll just introduce Mr. Murmu to all our viewers. He is the brother of Droupadi Murmu. Sir, आपसे पूछेंगे कि द्रौपदी जी जब पहली बार आपसे मिले थे, आपने कहा था कॉन्फिडेंस से कि आपकी दीदी जीतेंगी और राष्ट्रपति दीदी बनेंगी. राष्ट्रपति दीदी बन गई.
तो राष्ट्रपति दीदी बन गई, उसीलिए हमको बहुत खुशी है.
बहुत खुशी है.
बहुत खुशी.
अभी अगला क्या करेंगे?
अगला तो हम जाने का तैयार कर रहा हूँ.
दिल्ली जाएंगे?
दिल्ली
शपथ ग्रहण में.
जी जी.
अच्छा, 50% से अधिक वोट मिल रहे हैं उनको. इसका मतलब क्रॉस वोटिंग भी आप मतलब राष्ट्रपति द्रौपदी मुर्मू के फेवर में गया है. ये अंदाजा था?
नहीं, ये तो अंदाजा हमको नहीं था, मगर वो टीवी वगैरह में देख के हमको भी मतलब सुनने के मिले कि क्रॉस वोटिंग भी हुआ करके.
आपने मुझे कहा था पहली बार जब आपसे बातचीत हुई थी कि इसी घर में आप बचपन से द्रौपदी जी के साथ रह रहे हैं. यहाँ पर अभी तो वो रायसना हिल चली जाएंगी, तो आप क्या करेंगे? क्या आप भी जाएंगे उनके साथ रायरंगपुर से रायसना हिल?
अभी इस बार जाने का बाद हम बातचीत करेंगे, उसका बाद सोचेंगे कि हम यहाँ रहेंगे या रायसना हिल में रहेंगे.
सामने राखी है, आप क्या गिफ्ट देंगे दीदी को?
नहीं, हम लोग का तो राखी में गिफ्ट ऐसा राखी में नहीं बनवाया जाता है. बस ऐसे हम लोग
आप तो सुबह से खुश हो, आप मुस्कुरा रहे हो, लेकिन सेलिब्रेशन अभी नहीं हो रहा है. लड्डू नहीं दिख रहे. लड्डू सुबह बना रहे थे, गए किधर वो सब?
नहीं, वो बीच में दिया गया, अभी तक ख़त्म हो गया दे के. फिर कल बंटवा जाएगा।
द्रौपदी मुर्मू ने, आपने इतिश्री मुर्मू ने कहा था, हमसे ही कहा था आज तक पे, इंडिया टुडे पे, कि अगर सबको पता चले कि द्रौपदी मुर्मू कौन है, उनकी बैक स्टोरी क्या है, ऐसा कोई MP MLA नहीं है जो उनके फेवर में वोट नहीं देगा। ये मैजिक काम किया आपको लगता है?
हाँ, जरूर काम किया, जरूर काम किया।
खुश हुआ?
बहुत खुश हूँ, बहुत खुश।
So Rahul, that was Mr. Tarani Sen Tudu, the brother of Droupadi Murmu. As you can see, he's extremely happy over here. We spoke to him a month back when we first came over here to know about Droupadi Murmu. He was confident, and he's still confident. He was still confident in the morning as well. Right now, he's smiling. He's sweating, and he's smiling right now under a lot of pressure. So. But he's happy for the fact that, his sister becomes Rashtrapati Didi for all of us. Back to you.
All right, interesting there to see, the words of the brother who doesn't know whether he'll be at Raisina Hill or not. He's mighty excited, as you can quite imagine. Droupadi Murmu now all set to be India's next president, crossing 50% in the electoral college. We've got Parajita Sarangi joining us from the BJP. A big moment this, a tribal woman from the east coming to Rashtrapati Bhavan. And what's interesting is that you've got 104 MLAs, 17 MPs who seem to have cross-voted in favor of your candidate. Parajita?
Yes, a very good evening. I think this is a day of celebration, and the entire nation is celebrating this moment of victory. We are all one, barring a few. I think we are all one. We are all very happy, elated. A woman, and that too from a very underprivileged society. She has come and she will be adorning the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Nothing could have been better for the Indians. And let me tell you that this is not just the victory of Madam Droupadi Murmu. It's the victory of a thought, an idea, a principle. Prime Minister Modi's government has always been emphasizing Antyodaya, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. We have been standing by the downtrodden, the underprivileged, the vulnerable section of the community. And here is Madam Droupadi Murmu, whose journey has been from Rairangpur to Raisina Hill, a journey which has been dotted by struggles and difficulties all through. But I think she has looked upon all these difficulties as challenges and not as problems. And here she is. So I think all of us are elated. And the best part is that 104 MLAs have cross-voted and 17 MPs have cross-voted. I remember when the election preparations were on, Shri Yashwant Sinha ji had appealed to all the voters, the MPs and the MLAs, please listen to the voice of your conscience. Do what your Antaratma tells you to do. And I think many of these who have cross-voted...
Let me spend some time with Rahul Srivastav on that. I'm looking at the list of cross-voters. In states like Andhra Pradesh and Arunachal, there's no one who's cross-voted. There are lots of cross-votings in Assam, cross-votings in big numbers also in Gujarat, cross-votings in Madhya Pradesh, cross-votings in Maharashtra. And this is quite embarrassing. This is not those parties who said they will support Droupadi Murmu. These are MPs and MLAs from opposition ruled parties who picked another candidate who've on the sly gone and voted for Droupadi Murmu.
Rahul, I think the blame should be left at the doors of the party leaders in the opposition. They, missed doing what the BJP eventually has done. Their narrative was never cohesive, so much so that they picked up somebody who was not going to send out any kind of political signal. The opposition is saying that Droupadi Murmu is just a symbolic element, but then so were so many minority presidents of India. It is still a matter of romance for this democracy. We may be doing many things wrong, democracy may be faulty, but we have a woman tribal as a president of India, and I think that's a big right. And in that, the opposition missed a trick. It was not united, and the fracturing, so much so that the leaders are unable to convince their own MLAs, or they don't know which way the MLAs are going to go, that they actually take their political decisions. I think This means that the leaders are not tuned into their own parties and also not tuned in as far as the demography is concerned. I think the splintering of the opposition and also the lack of hold is very visible from here.
What you're seeing on the screen are images from Droupadi Murmu's Delhi residence, where Prime Minister Modi is expected to arrive any moment from now to congratulate Droupadi Murmu and to celebrate with BJP Karyakartas and the family of our new president. From Rairangpur to Sinha Hill, Droupadi Murmu's journey has been a remarkable one.
Rairangpur in Mayurbhanj district of Odisha is proud to be the town that witnessed the rise of Droupadi Murmu. She worked here as a teacher before becoming a councillor, an MLA, a minister, and then governor. More than 280 kilometers from the capital of Odisha, this is where she built her life after her elder son passed away. Her people are overjoyed. Havans followed by dance and sweets, the proud village is basking in Murmu's feet.
She is a lady with a heart. On the one side, she is an iron lady. She would like to take strong action in one hand. In other, she would talk very politely and very compassionately with the public.
Droupadi Murmu's brother Tarini Sen Tudu lives in her house in Rairangpur while the rest of the family keeps visiting. Her brother is excited about attending the swearing-in ceremony.
सेलिब्रेशन तो हम लोग तैयारी में है, लड्डू वड्डू बटा जाएगा और नाच उच भी होगा ट्रेडिशनल का। अगर जीत जाती है तो हम तो जरूर उसका ये मैं आऊँगा ओथ में।
वो लाइक एनी अदर मदर, कभी कभी स्ट्रिक्ट भी है, कभी कभी सॉफ्ट।
क्या बोल रहे हैं? Okay, here are images of Prime Minister Narendra Modi now reaching the residence of Droupadi Murmu. Paulami Saha is at Droupadi Murmu's residence. The Prime Minister coming, wanting to be a part of this celebration. And as far as the political messaging is concerned, they're going all out to ensure that that message goes home. Naturally, when the Prime Minister is going to meet the President who's just won this election, prime-time television cameras on them at this moment, and sending a very powerful message to all parts of the country that they've got now a Santal, tribal, Adivasi woman as India's next president. Rahul Srivastava?
A big moment. See, Rahul, if you see the pictures today, during the day we had the Congress protests on the street, and if you look at the entire tone and tenor of the protest, the Congress seemed to be trapped in a very domestic narrative. And you have Prime Minister Narendra Modi, JP Nadda, who just now held a roadshow, and you have got the BJP expanding on its narrative. And the Prime Minister first among the people to go and greet Droupadi Murmu. See the messaging of these pictures. If you see the celebrations which were on in Odisha and several other states in tribal belts, if somebody tried to dismiss that this is all symbolic, I think they are missing the political bus.
No, but it's a very important piece of political symbolism. Be that
Extremely
as
critical.
it may, everything in politics is symbolic, right? The opposition chose Yashwant Sinha, the Congress backed Yashwant Sinha, a long-time BJP member, to be its presidential candidate. The BJP picked an Adivasi Santal woman from the east to be the next president. Its politics is about symbolism to a great extent.
See, when BJP Prime Minister Modi changed his Council of Ministers and brought in 27 OBC ministers, it was same thing was said, this is all symbolic, but the BJP retained the OBC vote in Uttar Pradesh. So if you don't indulge in the right symbolism, you can't say that this is mere symbolism and dismiss it. I think the BJP has done something today. I think, say, for example, even in Orissa, for example, where the BJP is a poor second, I think the BJP has made a very strong stride.
Do you think this could help them in the next elections against
Definitely,
Naveen
Rahul,
Patnaik?
because that belt is something where Naveen Patnaik has always done very well. And the BJP was not getting a toehold. Dharmendra Pradhan used to contest at one time from one of the belts, constituencies which was tribal dominated. And remember, he lost his Lok Sabha elections. I think the BJP is very good now at making beginnings in here. Say, for example, in Telangana, what they have done over the last 1 month is very clear that the BJP is trying to make inroads. It's always preparing for it tomorrow. And I think these pictures with Prime Minister sitting with Droupadi Murmu and JP Nadda, I think this will be seen. I think this will be played over and over again in the next 1 or 2 months. I think the grand ceremony will be when Droupadi Murmu will be taking oath as president, and I think there will be a lot of rejoicing.
You know, a spokesperson from the Congress was supposed to join us on this broadcast, but once we shifted the topic from the Enforcement Directorate to the presidential elections because the Prime Minister is live, they decided they won't join us. And that also shows how this election has been so embarrassing for the Congress, for the opposition, and brought out very starkly all that is wrong with the opposition and the Congress's strategy, Rahul Srivastava, when they're trying to take on the BJP with the kind of planning this BJP is doing.
I think, Rahul, very embarrassing for the Congress. I think it's a big moment for the Congress because it's the first time that the Congress, or I think maybe the second time, but the Congress had no say as far as picking the presidential or the vice presidential candidate is concerned. Yashwant Sinha picked by Mamata Banerjee and TRS, and you had Margaret Alba picked by Sharad Pawar and Sitaram Yechury. I think that indicates the slide of the Congress, that it is not part of the decision making of the opposition. It is others who are setting the tone, that for president's election, it is Mamata Banerjee who takes the lead. Say, for example, even look at this act that Mamata Banerjee has declared already a tribal day, that the state will be celebrating. She realizes that there is something that the BJP has achieved. She needs to do a political counter. I think the Congress is a very sorry state today, because I think at least in decision making, the Congress could have had its say, and that could have helped the party retain its principal opposition space, I think, which is losing very fast. I think Mamata Banerjee, Arvind Kejriwal and others are eating away at the Congress's space very, very quickly.
But they don't even know what's going on. They don't know how to counter it, and they're being hit by a force which they simply cannot deal with at this moment. I want to go across to Paulami Saha. She's at Droupadi Murmu's residence at this moment, smiling pictures of the victorious party. Droupadi Murmu in this white and blue sari, all set to become India's next president, receiving congratulations at this moment from the BJP president and the Prime Minister. What are you picking up from the ground, Paulami?
Right, Rahul, the Prime Minister, of course, just went in a short while ago into the residence. Just moments ago, in fact, he arrived over here at the residence of Droupadi Murmu. He was received by BJP President JP Nadda, who was already here. And, of course, he's gone in to congratulate Droupadi Murmu. And as you can see, there is, of course, arrangement which has been made over here at the residence, this Shamiana, which has been put up, this tent which has been put up, where Droupadi Murmu, in a short while from now, after a few of those dignitaries personally congratulate her, will be officially and publicly felicitated by the party and party karyakartas and members of parliament and others who will be arriving over here. And it had gone up a short while ago, which basically says Abhinandan, Navnirvachit, Mananiya, Rashtrapati, Srimati Droupadi Murmu. So the BJP was already very confident, and these are banners that we've seen across Lutyens, Delhi, central Delhi today as well, which basically already anticipated this victory for Droupadi Murmu, and the BJP is pulling out all stops, Rahul, in order to ensure that this momentous occasion is marked in history books when India, of course, gets its first tribal president.
What are you picking up about these cross votes? The fact that 104 MLAs, 17 MPs cross voted, that's a big number. In some of the states like Assam, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, you've got more than a dozen MLAs cross voting. That's a big number. It's not just in the ones and the twos. These are big numbers of cross voting
That's right. You know, the BJP had anticipated that there will be some amount of cross-voting because there were already murmurs, in fact, of that earlier. In fact, when the polling happened as well, and I was just going through the Prime Minister's tweets as well. The Prime Minister has, of course, congratulated Droupadi Murmu as she, of course, in fact, registered this victory for herself. But as far as cross-voting goes, Rahul, they had, of course, anticipated that there will be some amount of cross-voting. But today, of course, they were very surprised. At least that's what the BJP is claiming. We will have to eventually see the results as they are after they officially declared how many MPs and how many MLAs from each state assembly and how do they vote. But as far as the MP votes were concerned, a top source told me, for instance, that they, out of the number of votes that were cast, 748 were declared to be valid and 15 others invalid. So 763, in fact, were the number of votes polled as far as Parliament was concerned in these elections. They had hoped to get 523. What Droupadi Murmu got was 540. That's 17 more MPs. So if you consider, even if you consider those 15 invalid votes and say a couple of those votes are BJP's votes, so the BJP trained its MPs real hard and its MLAs real hard to ensure that their votes are not considered to be valid. They know which ink to use, which pen to use, how to mark, etc., etc. Even if we consider that a few of those 15 invalid votes are from the Bharatiya Janata Party, that means they were anticipating 523, but a few would be invalid, which means, but they got 540, which means the figure could be more than 17 in terms of the number of MPs that cross-voted. Now that is a mind-boggling figure because the number that was doing the rounds was about 8 or 9. But BJP claims that we had calculated 523, we got 540, that's 17 MPs of the opposition camp that have cross-voted in Droupadi Murmu's favour. So there is going to be a lot of dissection of these results as they come in, especially with the state legislative assemblies. They were, of course, hoping big time on the third round of counting, which is, of course, the second set of states after the first 10 were counted. The second set of states being big states for BJP, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and, of course, they were hoping that they will, Madhya Pradesh, they were hoping that they will secure victory after that, which is when, of course, Droupadi Murmu technically crossed the halfway mark. Punjab being the only state which was not voting for Droupadi Murmu in that. In the last round, where counting is still underway, only Tamil Nadu and Rajasthan is where they're hoping, they're anticipating that it will not vote in their favour. But clearly, these are big states, and if there has been this amount of cross-voting, this is a worrying sign for the opposition, really, because the opposition now has to try and decipher as to how exactly is it that they couldn't get the number of votes, given that they all came together in order to announce Yashwant Sinha's name. But then we've seen the chins already over there. Aam Aadmi Party did not attend those meetings, those two meetings that were called by Mamata Banerjee to declare Yashwant Sinha as the contender for the race. Aam Aadmi Party did not come to those meetings, and eventually, grudgingly, they did declare their support for Yashwant Sinha. But what eventually happened, that remains to be seen. When no whip was issued in this election, the BJP, of course, is now mocking it and saying, well, a lot of MPs and MLAs went out there and voted with their conscience. Rahul.
Okay, this conscience clearly got them to cross-vote, and that is something which the BJP would be mighty excited about. But that again is something that the opposition will need to introspect on. The Prime Minister is at the residence of India's new President, Droupadi Murmu. I've got some posts put out by the President. We've got posts put out by the Prime Minister. I'll take you through some of those. Let me read to you what the President of India, Ramnath Kovind, has said. Heartiest congratulations and best wishes to Srimati Droupadi Murmu on being elected India's 15th President. Prime Minister Modi said at a time when 1.3 billion Indians are marking Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, a daughter of India hailing from a tribal community born in a remote part of eastern India has been elected our president. Congratulations, Droupadi Murmu. I'd like to thank those MPs and MLAs across party lines who supported our candidate. Her record victory augurs well for democracy. So that is from Prime Minister Modi. Rahul Gandhi has tweeted moments before now to say congratulations and best wishes to Srimati Droupadi Murmu on being elected India's 15th president. I'm being told that Supriya Srinit of the Congress Party is now with us on this broadcast. We'll go across to her in just a moment. And I just want to also clarify before we start that She says that the camera crew didn't reach her, which is why she wasn't able to join us, not because she didn't want to talk about candidate Murmu winning this election, but these are festivities breaking out different parts of the country, different parts of the capital, where you've got the BJP out on the streets celebrating the victory of candidate Murmu. Supriya now joins us. Supriya, welcome. You've got Rahul Gandhi coming out and congratulating candidate Murmu, but this is also where it's very clear that this presidential election has shown all that's wrong with the opposition strategy in dealing with the BJP. The BJP picked an Adivasi tribal woman from the east. The Congress and the opposition picked Yashwant Sinha, a long-time BJP leader who criticized the Congress party at various occasions as your candidate. And even today, 104 MLAs cross-voting, 17 MPs cross-voting. What do you make of the mess the opposition finds itself in? Supriya.
No, first up, I do want to reassert that your crew did not reach. There was a communication error. I was very willing to join. In fact, I'm joining your rival channel at 9 p.m. exactly on this topic. I want to state that
sure,
up front.
I accept that. Thank you.
15th President of India, of course, we'll get around to congratulating her. And why won't we? She is going to be my president as well. But we live in a democracy, and I think everybody has a right to contest every election, whether it's a Panchayat Raj election or it's an election to India's highest office, being the first citizen. We are happy that she comes from a humble background. We are very happy there'll be a tribal woman representation in Rashtrapati Bhavan, but that doesn't stop us from opposing an ideology that the BJP stands for. And because she's also going to be my president, I do urge her that she's really going to look into how this government is systematically going about annihilating the rights of life and livelihood for tribals. The bill that's lying in Parliament, which will need her consent, I hope as India's first tribal woman president, she is going to put an end to what the BJP is trying to do. I was also hearing while you were discussing the opposition, and yes, there has been cross-voting. I'm not going to deny that. I don't think the opposition came around on this one as one single unit. I think it has to do with the fact that she comes from a tribal background. There are tribal chief ministers who would have obviously gone ahead and supported her. Now, to your question, why are we supporting Yashwant Sinha, who's criticized the Congress on multiple occasions? He's been a BJP finance minister, and he's calling them out every single day, because every sane individual in this country, if you believe in India more than you believe in the power of the two gentlemen trying to run this country, you will call them out. And that's what Yashwant Sinha is doing. I think every force in this country which wants to oppose the ideology that the Bharatiya Janata Party and the RSS wants to stand for has to come together. We could not be successful this time around, but we live in optimism.
No, but take for example the fact that the Trinamool Congress has said this evening that they will not back Margaret Alva for vice president. You simply don't forget trying to fight the 2024 elections as one united opposition. You can't even come together and deciding who will be the vice presidential candidate. The TMC doesn't want to have any truck with the Congress on this.
No, Rahul. I think we need to step back and realize that a 2024 general election is very different from a presidential campaign, or for that matter, the vice president's election. A vice president's election, there's very little at stake, so to say. But a 2024 general election is going to be fought all across the country, and there are glaring issues that we want to fight together, against the Modi government. I also want to make one thing very clear here. There was something that was being talked about symbolism before I joined in. I want to understand, we had a Dalit president, Shri Ramnath Kovind ji, who's now demitting office. How well off are Dalits after he had taken over than before? Dalits in this country are subject to the most gruesome atrocities under his nose, under this government's regime. So let's not get carried away with symbolism. At a time, we were trying to elect Droupadi Murmu ji to India's highest office. A tribal woman was being burnt alive in Madhya Pradesh. Tribals were being beaten up. They were denied their life to life and livelihood. So let's not get carried away with symbolism, because symbolism carries your vote so far, no further. How are Dalits today better off after 5 years of Shri Kovind? I would want to ask.
Okay, let me put that question to Aparajita Sarangi. How are Dalits better off because of the presence of a Dalit as president? How will tribals benefit because of the presence of a tribal as a president? But the point that Rahul Srivastava was making was very important, Supriya, which is that this helps, for example, mobilize in parts of Orissa where the BJP hasn't done well, political momentum in favor of the BJP. It's also got the likes of Mamata Banerjee having to announce a tribal day because they realize the power of this idea. You're dismissing that symbolism, but in that political symbolism is the BJP believes lies its future.
Have I lost you? Is it my turn to speak?
Yes, you can, Supriya. I was talking about how everyone now wants to be pro-tribals because of that symbolism, and you're dismissing the power of that symbolism.
Yeah, no, everybody wants to be pro-tribals only in the name of being in pro-tribals, because this government, through the Forest Rights Act and the amendments that are being made to it, are even leaving final approvals that will affect the ease of living for tribals, for Adivasis and Dalits in forest areas. So let's not talk about who's trying to do what about tribals. There is an August 2009 amendment. There's a 2006 Forest Rights Act, which the government needs to adhere to. The reason why I say about symbolism is, if you think Srimati Droupadi Murmu's election is going to get the BJP's boat sailing in Odisha, then we've got something other coming on our hands, quite frankly. I mean, politics is, yes, symbolism to an extent, but it doesn't carry you any further. Are you telling me if they had elected a Tamil president, the BJP would have won Tamil Nadu? Not in this lifetime for them. Not in this lifetime can they win Kerala. Not in this lifetime can they win
at this moment, Supriya, it's a fact of politics that there is a brighter chance of the BJP doing better in Tamil Nadu or in a state like Telangana than the Congress. In the way
I'm actually quite surprised. I'm quite surprised that you really believe that the BJP can do better than us in Tamil Nadu.
Without the DMK, take the DMK's crutches away. Take the DMK's crutches away. Take the DMK's crutches away. Most Congress leaders would struggle to save their deposits.
I object to the word crutches, first of all, and I want to put it up front. I object to the word crutches. There are no crutches in politics. There are allies. Just like we ally with some people, the BJP allies with the others. They've done it in,
Let me get Rahul Srivastava in on this. Rahul, okay, just one second. Let me get another perspective on this. Supriya Srinath says that there's a brighter chance of the Congress coming back to power on its own in Tamil Nadu than the BJP doing better, or even a state like Telangana where the BJP is clearly the principal opponent. No, one second. Let's hear from Rahul. I'm coming.
Rahul, I think
you said that.
No, I did not. Rewind. What did I say? Do not call allies crutches. Are you telling me that the BJP can do better than the Congress in Tamil Nadu? It's a huge no. Are you telling me?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying going forward, the BJP's graph in most states, given the way that the Congress is at this moment, the BJP's graph is likely in states like Telangana.
If that's your ground report, then you need to review your ground report.
Well, I'm only reporting on the elections as I have no personal axe to grind against anyone. I'm only reporting on the elections as they've been happening over the last several years and the trend as it shows at this moment. And probabilistically, let's listen to Rahul Srivastava. Rahul, yes.
See, Rahul, I think there are troubles for the BJP in a state like Tamil Nadu because of the Brahminical and several other issues that the BJP had. But there is an example called West Bengal where 10 years ago the BJP was nowhere. But you have a BJP which is now the principal opposition and you have virtually no Congress inside the assembly. Rahul, the point here is when we are talking about symbolism, Rahul, we have Congress made three presidents in fact, who were from the minority. Do you think it was done because that nothing will happen to the minorities? The Congress brought Mr. K.R. Narayanan as the President of India. He was a Dalit. You mean to say that Congress's effort never did anything for the country? Congress brought in Pratibha Patil ji as the first woman President of India. You mean to say that after that the lot of the women never improved? I think we should not weigh on the scales of what people got with what the symbolism was. I think if Zakir Hussain, Zail Singh, Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, Pratibha Patil and K.R. Narayanan were strong symbols to the people of this country that constitution works in this country.
No, but
I think Droupadi Murmu
I don't see why Supriya is in denial. Symbolism is an important part of politics. It's a reality. Why deny the obvious? You've done it in the past. What was Pratibha Patil? She wasn't the best person suited to be president. You picked her for certain reasons.
I don't think it's either right up to you or for me to comment on people who've been the first citizens of this country, whether they were right or not. Just like I'm not going to make my comments about Droupadi Murmu ji now that she's elected. But I do want to say, I'm not denying symbolism. All that I'm saying is symbolism takes you this far and no further. I mean, if you are telling me that the lot of tribals are going to now stand with Mr. Modi, then we really are, talking about two different parallel universes that we are perhaps traversing. Absolutely, symbolism is important in politics, and a lot. It's a big deal. But to say that BJP is going to win Odisha because Srimati Droupadi Murmu has been made president.
Okay, we've got live images now of candidate Murmu, soon to be our president, out with the Prime Minister and with the BJP president. They're doing their namaste. She's looking delighted. It's the biggest day of her life, as you can quite imagine. To come from a very remote Santhal tribal village to now be set to be India's president, she is delighted. Her name was Rahul in the reckoning last time round as well. The Prime Minister's left. JP Nadda, the BJP president, is escorting him out. Droupadi Murmu's gone back. It's interesting how they're being careful about protocol. She didn't come to the car as she may have last week to see off the Prime Minister. She's gone back in, the BJP president coming out. A small detail there. But Rahul Srivastava, she was in the reckoning last time. It didn't come out. But this time they went for her and they picked her.
Yes, I think last time around the BJP was looking at UP elections. Definitely her name did the rounds. Very importantly, what you noticed, also the Prime Minister gesture to her that she can now go back and then only he will leave. So already the protocol is in place. Rahul, but very interesting point, she comes from a village, and to study further in Bhubaneswar, she virtually walked, Rahul. That school where she went to study, the Ramadevi Inter College, did not have a pakka floor. It did not have a concrete floor. It had a kacha floor, and the building was in a very dilapidated state. Things have changed. But I think...
Is this the first time there's been this big song and dance to accompany someone becoming the president or winning the election that day?
Yes.
Did it happen with
not so much. No, I think the BJP didn't, like JP Nadda taking a road show, Prime Minister coming in like this. Before the results are announced, I think the BJP is trying to drive the point home.
Their ability to turn anything into a spectacle.
This is the swagger of a winner.
The swagger of a winner, and to turn it into a moment. If there's no Nach Gana happening, then it's not quite as dramatic. If you've got all the bells and whistles, the songs and the dances, it becomes a TV moment. And this is not just India Today television where this is being watched. Whether it's a regional channel in Orissa or West Bengal or a Hindi channel, you're being watched across, and that messaging is going through, including the fact that the Prime Minister is telling the President to walk back as he goes back to his car. So these little details being noticed. And look at that smile. Rahul Srivastava, she's beaming from ear to ear. She's delighted as she gets all set to be India's next president. And you got Dharmendra Pradhan, who comes from Orissa, right at the back, and he's the man the BJP will be able to lead them to power in that battle against Naveen Patnaik.
She's got her task cut out, Rahul, because she's a very simple lady. She's very quiet, but when she gets talking, she talks very well. She's a great cook. And I've had the pleasure of going to her house once.
What did she cook for you?
She cooked some very ordinary bhaji which they cook in that part of the world, and she was very happy to feed us. And because Droupadi Murmu as a politician used to be on the sideline. She never tried to, I think that's also from the region she comes from. I think the tribals have a very quiet demeanor. And Droupadi Murmu symbolizes that.
But she's been governor of Jharkhand, and therefore she has the closest thing to being president is being a governor. Yes, so you have a broad sense of your official responsibilities. They're feeding each other laddus, and Rahul and I are beginning now to feel a little hungry. But being governor comes close in many ways to being president, and therefore she has some grooming for this responsibility.
I think the constitutional propriety, I think that's very critical for a president, that it knows how to, the president, while governor knows how to deal with the government, a state government though, bills which are passed on to the governor for clearances, for appointments at various levels. Definitely the governor Governorship gives you an internship into what a president's job is. But I think it's a very critical job. And I think, again, Rahul, I will say the opposition missed the trick. Sometime before UP elections, the NDA had 48.5% votes as far as the entire collegium is concerned. The opposition could have started working then, got people like the BJD and others to join their narrative and push the candidate. Supriya was right in saying that the presidency is a very critical job. Imagine if there was an opposition president, what could have been the political scenario in this country? I think the opposition really missed the trick.
No, but it's much tougher to cobble together a consensus around a candidate when you're up against somebody who's already 48 plus. Then you just need a little bit more, 1.5%, 2% more is enough to take you through. For the opposition to come together really requires the kind of political skill and maneuvering which we haven't seen this opposition being capable of. I'm going to slip into a quick break as they feed each other these laddus. It's now very clear that Droupadi Murmu will be India's 15th president at a time when 17 MPs, 104 MLAs cross-voted. That's the other big story coming out of these presidential elections. More details coming up on the other side. You're watching the Newstrack.
आ गई? कैसा रहा दिन?
बहुत अच्छा।
कोई वीडियो गेम कवर करने गई थी ना?
वीडियो गेम नहीं माँ, ई-स्पोर्ट्स।
ई-स्पोर्ट्स?
माँ, ई-स्पोर्ट्स is just like any other competitive sport. इसमें ना वो सब फीलिंग्स है जो किसी भी और स्पोर्ट्स में है। इसमें इमोशन है, इसमें एंगर है, इसमें सैडनेस है, इसमें हैप्पीनेस है, इसमें कमराडरी है। ये सिर्फ गेम नहीं, ये ई स्पोर्ट्स का प्रीमियर लीग ESPL है।
You are watching India Today.
From Rairangpur to Rashtrapati Bhavan, Droupadi Murmu's journey has been remarkable. A Santhal tribal, Murmu rose from the grassroots, where she was a hard-working, industrious MLA and earned rich administrative experience as a minister in the Patnaik-led coalition government in Orissa in the year 2000. Here's all you need to know about India's 15th president.
Rairangpur in Mayurbhanj district of Odisha is proud to be the town that witnessed the rise of Droupadi Murmu. She worked here as a teacher before becoming a councillor, an MLA, a minister, and then governor. More than 280 kilometers from the capital of Odisha, this is where she built her life after her elder son passed away. Her people are overjoyed. Havans followed by dance and sweets, the proud village is basking in Murmu's feet.
She is a lady with a heart. On the one side, she is an iron lady. She would like to take strong action in one hand. In other, she would talk very politely and very compassionately with the public.
Droupadi Murmu's brother Tarini Sen Tudu lives in her house in Rairangpur while the rest of the family keeps visiting. Her brother is excited about attending the swearing-in ceremony.
सेलिब्रेशन तो हम लोग तैयारी में है, लड्डू वड्डू बटा जाएगा और नाच उच भी होगा ट्रेडिशनल का। अगर जीत जाती है तो हम तो जरूर उसका ये मैं आऊँगा ओथ में।
वो लाइक एनी अदर मदर, कभी कभी स्ट्रिक्ट भी है, कभी कभी सॉफ्ट भी है, और शी इज like any other mother.
In the school where she worked as a teacher between 1994 and 1997, she is remembered fondly as Didi, or elder sister.
रूल रेगुलेशन भी करूथिले, आ समस्तनकर सहित भलो संपर्क भी रहउतिला, आ छोटे छोटे छुआ मन को भी भलो व्यवहार भी करूथिले, समस्त स्टाफ मान का सहित भी भलो सब संपर्क रहितला, लोक मान का सहित भी भलो सब संपर्क रहितला.
The school premises that we see over here is also testimony to the fact that before 1997, before she became an elected representative, she was a teacher. And the school is still here, students are here, the school has expanded, its classes are still on. However, what is not over here is Droupadi Murmu, who was a teacher, and she used to teach all these subjects in this middle school.
Nearly half an hour drive away is the village where Droupadi Murmu was born. Uparbeda village has changed since her childhood. The school she studied in has grown to become a high school with smart classes. Back in the 60s, it was only a primary school.
Droupadi Murmu had to leave the village of Uparbeda. The reason was that the school that she went to in this particular village was a primary one. That means it was there till class 5. And that is the reason why she had to leave for Bhubaneswar for further studies. In 2022, things have completely changed over here in this particular village of Uparbeda.
Droupadi Murmu's native house is a well-constructed one compared to the Kacha house of the neighborhood. Decorated like never before for the auspicious occasion. Murmu's extraordinary journey is now the new folklore, which will inspire generations of Adivasis and common citizens. With Suryagni Roy in Mayurbhanj, Bureau Report, India Today.
Here's wishing Droupadi Murmu all the best for her stint as India's 15th president. Rajdeep Sardesai is all mic'd up and he comes to you with news today on the other side of a very quick break. Stay with us.
इस समय पूरी दुनिया में लोग कंफ्यूज्ड हैं। वो समझ नहीं पा रहे हैं क्या सही है, क्या गलत है, क्या सच है, क्या झूठ है। और ये स्पष्टता हम आपको अपने इस नए शो में देंगे। सब कुछ ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट में बताएंगे। इस शो में मेरे बालों के अलावा कुछ ग्रे नहीं होगा। हर खबर ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट की तरह बिल्कुल स्पष्ट होगी।
A fandom war has erupted over India Today magazine's latest cover, and locked in battle here are fans of two superstars from the South who recently made it quite big globally with their record-breaking box office revenues for their recently released films. We're talking about none other than Pushpa fame Allu Arjun and Bahubali fame Prabhas. Allu Arjun shot to pan-India fame and attention with Pushpa The Rise. His appearance on India Today's cover page demonstrates the rise of southern Indian cinema. Allu Arjun's latest video hit over 5 billion views, a record-breaking feat for any Indian actor. This surely implicates that he is the front-runner in the South industry who's risen to fame exponentially. On the other hand, Prabhas had also made it to India Today's cover page back in May 2017. Well, now the comparison of both the cover pages by fans of both stars have sparked quite a row on social media. The war is all about which of these heroes have bigger pan-India fame and presence. Prabhas's fans say that his cover was more organic,